What's up, everybody? This is Greg with Evangel Brokers, and this is the ADV1 podcast. This is a podcast we come to you each and every weekday with relevant topics and trainings, and we have today a very special co-host and guest speaker for the Leadership Huddle. I have Tyler Mitch Mitchell of Fifth Dimension Potential. Every time. It works every time.
It gets me every time, dude. I love it. I was going to make the noise myself if you didn't make it. Peer, peer.
So, Mitch, what's going on, man? It's been like 2 weeks since we were able to sit down and talk. We're always so busy.
What's going on?
What's going on with you and your world, Mitch?
I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina and spent a day there. And then we went to Romania in Bucharest for a hot moment and traveled around Bucharest in French Puma helicopters and flew all over Romania. It was pretty cool. I just got back from that last week. So that's why I was out last week. And then we had Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Hundreds of people outside. It was like 1980s. It was nice, dude. There was like hundreds of people outside. We ran out of candy in like an hour, and we bought a ton of candy,
dude. So this past weekend we had Halloween, and we had a bunch of people come and visit us and stay at the house. So we had David Doring came with his girlfriend Caitlin, stay with us. David Fisher came with his wife Nicole. Kevin Vega came with his wife Jess and their 2 kids. Desiree almost came. Chris Curry came. Zach Allen with his wife Tina and their 4 kids came. They all stayed at my house. It was awesome. So we had a big Halloween party. A bunch of family and friends came. There was a ton of people at the house. A lot of people from ADV came by, and then we spent the weekend. Like Saturday, we took them all around Dallas just to show them like downtown Dallas, and they really liked it. So Sunday, everyone left early Sunday morning. And we just had a whole weekend of like entertaining people and like doing stuff. And so Lexi and I were just relaxing all day. And at like 4:30, maybe we got a door knock. And I was like, who the hell is knocking our door at 4:30 on a Sunday? And I was like, man, who is here? And I was like, man, we just had all those people here. I thought maybe it's the neighbor kid. Cause a lot of the time the neighbor kid will, we have like the group of kids that play whatever in the yard, football or baseball or whatever, and their balls will come over the fence. So he'll just come and ring the doorbell, and he'll be like, "Hey, can you throw the ball back over?" And then I go in the backyard and just throw them over. So I thought maybe it was him, but then when I got to the door, I looked through the peephole, and I saw people in costumes walking away, and I was like, "Oh man, today's trick or treating!" I completely forgot. So we had a ton. We had a lot of people come by the house and do trick-or-treating. We gave out candy. It was awesome, man. It was really nice. So
you had people show up to trick-or-treat at 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah, it was pretty early. 4:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, in the afternoon.
And it was like 4:30 p.m. It was like 4:30. But it's still like super. It was a little bit too early. Most people.
That's when the little babies come out. The little littles.
Most people go like 5 to 7.
Walk around.
See now when I was a kid, that's when I would go. When I was like a teenager, like 14, 15, I would go at like 4:35. I'd do the whole neighborhood. I would go back home. I would change costumes, and I'd go back out again, and I would double up.
That's commitment.
Yeah,
that's commitment. Speaking of doubling up, segue. You need a noise. You need a sound. You need a sound for the segue.
Segue. Is
that good? No. I need a different one than that. Segue. We'll work on it. Okay. You're having too much fun.
Yeah.
I got something in my eye, bro. No, but so speaking of doubling up, dude, we've been at this for 2 years, Greg. You realize that?
Yeah. No, we've been working together and basically trying to create our system and based upon leadership and and culture, creating a good culture for agents for 2 years. Yeah, it's been
2 years. And
it's
so
October of 2019. Yeah, man.
yeah, so this is like our 2 year anniversary. So I
Yeah.
was looking back through my notes, actually. I got them right here on this yellow. So on my notes, right? And I got scribbles all over it and yada, yada, yada. So I was looking back through our notes together, and I looked at what we were talking about 2 years ago, and we had a catchphrase, which was 100% of the five, which we were talking about back then, recruiting and not doing mass recruiting, and being more selective, and not just recruiting the masses and see who could survive the grinder and not get turned to ash,
Yeah. Yeah.
from it, but actually, you know, could make it, and that actually had the right mindset and had thought about leadership and were disciplined and so on and so forth. And
Well,
it's 2 years, man.
It's two part.
That's what
I mean, there's two parts of why that's a better system. It's better for the agents that are coming on board because they're going to get the selective, focused attention that's going to help them to succeed. Okay. The leadership, the mentorship, the guidance, the focused attention, because you can actually be selective on who you want to work with and focus all your attention in order to help them. But B, it's just easier for you as the recruiter, leader, manager, whatever you want to call yourself, agency owner, what, it doesn't matter. It's easier for you because your attention's not spread to 100+ people waiting for 90 of them to fall off, and seeing who makes it through. And then those people, you're still the 10 that stay, you're still going to probably work with 7 or 6 of them. So you're waiting for the other 3, after the initial fall off to kind of work through the widgets, when you can kind of identify those intrinsic values that people that succeed at a high level, that succeed in this industry, identifying those and finding those in other people to be able to quickly identify, hey, you have the potential to be successful here. I want to work with you. I think I can help pull that out of you. It's just a little bit, I think it's a better system, but what's even more, I think, impressive is that, I had a recording on a podcast with somebody. Her name's Danielle Richards, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And her podcast aired beginning of last week. And she was talking about a lot of the same tenets that we're discussing right now and what you and I went over 2 years ago. Funny enough, her husband is prior Marine. So, yeah, they got 4 kids. Semper Fi. They got 4 kids. And she's just very no nonsense, very much about discipline, standards, creating a duplicatable process, and only working with people that can keep up, that want to be here with her, that want to do it, but are also going to be accountable to the work. And she's a little bit, she's very direct, and she holds them to the standard. But since she's been here, she's helped 6 agents come on board, and all 6 of them have been successful in real business. So she's basically creating that model for herself, the 100% of the 5, or 100% of the 6 for her case.
Yeah, she one-upped us.
Yeah, 100% of the 6.
Well, no. So I mean, just if you run the math, it's like, okay, one person, a leader, has a finite amount of time to spend with each of their folks, coaching, teaching, mentoring. You can't coach, teach, and mentor 100 people.
Yeah.
And the only way you do that is if you have managers and leaders and trainers underneath you as well, right? To delegate that and empower that responsibility to. But yeah, like you said, you painted the perfect picture where you just spin your wheels and waste your time with 90% of the people that are not going to make it, when you could have just put a little bit more effort on the front end and been more selective. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. And how are you going to duplicate that?
So, honestly, I think we should get her on here. And I went through her process of how she helps agents be successful. And dude, it's a lot of it's like simple, basic leadership tenets. Hey, she brings people in, she does a counseling session with them, and she sets expectations. Hey, this is what you got to do to be successful. Boom, 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 boom. She holds them to standard. She then asks them what they want to accomplish. Hey, how do you want to get there? What are you going to do? And she lets them tell them through self discovery and just discussion, the things that they realize that they have to do to accomplish their goals. She helps them set goals. She holds them to the standard. She meets with them every 30 days. Simple processes, simple things that every single leader can do, but implemented correctly,
Yeah.
will have massive impacts in your organization.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, we had something like that going in a pilot program that you were doing a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so no, there's power in that, definitely, but people have to have buy-in into that. And self authoring, I think, is the term that's thrown around a lot, or self discovery, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
There's two parts to that though too. It's like, yeah, you got self authoring, self discovery, but you also have that leader that's like, this is how I'm going to help you write your own story that you want to write,
Yeah.
right? And so when you put those two things together, that's super powerful. But again, you can only do that with so many people, because it's a time investment. Yeah, and you can't save them all. And that's something I learned as I advanced in rank and responsibility in the military, is that you can't spend your time with everybody, right? Your time as a leader is finite, and so you got to be selective with where you pick your spots, right?
Yeah.
Because you can spend a lot of time with person X, but it's like, yeah, but what's the return on your investment of time as a more senior leader, right? So that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because you think, the hubris of youth, you think you can save everybody, and you're the leader extraordinaire, when in fact you're not. So it's like, oh, I can only help so many people with my finite amount of resources, which is my time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what books are you reading these days, Greg?
Well,
I know you're an avid reader.
I just literally finished Winning by Tim Grover. Fantastic book, by the way. Like, really, really good book. In fact, that's something we can talk about tomorrow. That's it. Why didn't we talk about that? We should have talked about the topics I've been reading. But right now I'm finishing up Relentless by Tim Grover. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a book called Mindset by Carol. Well, that's wrong. I'm in like 6 books. I'm like a multi-book reader at the same time, because I don't know, I'm a weirdo like that. I'll read one and then I'll skip to another one and read it, and then I just kind of power through them at a time. But one of the ones that I'm in is, I'm looking up on my bookshelf, but it's Carol Dweck. She's PhD. It's an older book. I don't want to say older, but in the age of social media, it's rather old. But it's called Mindset, and there was a cool, fascinating story in there. And since you have kids, right, and I have kids, right, I think there's applicability to adults though. But she shared the story where she's like, okay, there was 2 groups of kids. They did a study, and one group of kids, they took the same aptitude test, right? They took the same aptitude test, separated them into 2 groups. One group of kids, if they scored well, they gave them this positive, reinforcement. But the way they said it was, hey, you must be really proud. That you must be really smart, right? That's how you did so well in that test. You must be really smart. You must be so proud of how smart you are. And they just kind of kept saying that. So they kind of planted it in those kids' minds, like, oh yeah, I'm smart. That's why I was successful. It's because of my intelligence. And so they kind of got rewarded for that, through those words. Now the other group of kids, if they scored well, they said, you must be really proud of the amount of work and effort you put into that test. You must have put a lot of hard work and effort into that to score so well, and tried really hard. And the kids were like, yeah, I did try really hard. I had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that. And that's how I was able to score so well. So what they did is they then gave them another test, and it got harder. It was a harder test than the first test. And so the first group of kids, of course, they scored lower, right? And some of them even like quit and gave up and were just like, hey, I can't do this, because they had it planted in their mind that the only reason they were successful is because they were so smart. And so when they hit this obstacle, they started to self-doubt and say, I guess I must not be that smart. I'm not smart enough for this test, so I'm just going to quit. Whereas the other kids who were rewarded for their effort and their hard work didn't quit. They persevered, they tried harder, they worked at it. And then even at the end, they're like, oh, this is a growth opportunity. I just need to work harder. That's why I didn't score so well, because I just need to work harder. So I found that very fascinating. I'm like, man, how many times, that even happened to me? This happened to me recently. So I went back to school for funsies, remember?
Hmm.
And so I took this one quiz. A quiz. I'm a grown man. I'm taking a quiz, right? So like I take this quiz, and it's part essay, part multiple choice, and I was writing the essays like a boss. I like to write, right? Like I'm a writer. And so I'm writing, and I didn't do very good time management. And so I had no time for the multiple choice, which were like calculations. So they were math, and I didn't read ahead in the test to see what was coming up. I just had, hubris and like, oh, I'm smart, I can do it. Well, I ran out of time. And I bombed. Well, I didn't bomb. I didn't score as well as I wanted to. I didn't fail it, but I didn't score as well as I wanted to. So I'm like, oh man, I must. And then that same thing that happened to those kids happened to my brain. I was like, man, is this for me? Am I smart enough? Am I good enough? Because I've been telling myself, and the world around me has been telling me like, oh, Mitch, you're smart. You're really intelligent. You're this. No one really ever rewards me and says, Mitch, you must really have worked hard. You worked hard on that. No, they always revert to like, no, you're competent. Your competence level. And so you think that, oh, the only reason I got by was because I'm smart. It naturally came to me, right? Whereas it's like, no, I had to go. That thing has triggered so many things in my brain. I go back in time. I'm like, no, I wasn't successful because I was smart. It's because I worked my ass off. So like you, what are you doing right now today? What have you been doing today?
This is my third podcast recording, and I've been preparing for a speech that's going to be going on at the management or leadership huddle retreat in Vegas this weekend. I got a 30-minute speech, and I've been saying it over and over again. My mind is melting.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Mark my words. I don't know when you're going to air this one, but mark my words. When you get done with that speech, and you're going to crush it, because I know you will, because I know you're a good orator. You're very good at speaking, but it's not because you're a good speaker. It's because you're working your butt off right now, trying to memorize this thing to make it flow and be natural. And so you don't have to refer to notes, and you can really connect with your audience. So you're working right now.
Yeah.
Right. I'll bet you a paycheck that people will come up to you and say, geez, Greg, that was a really good speech. You're such a good speaker. You're so smart. You're such a good speaker. They're gonna comment and compliment you on your competence.
Yeah.
No one's gonna say, geez, man, you must have spent forever rehearsing that.
Yeah.
Way to work so hard. No one's gonna say that.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'll say it because I know that's what you put into it. But like, just imagine that. Like, just anyone. Like, think about it. Go back in time in your life and be like, how many times was I rewarded for my hard work and my work ethic, opposed to like, they didn't see all the hard work that you put into it. They just saw the end result and then assumed, oh, they just must be talented and gifted and natural. And I think, quite honestly, that's a lot of our own insecurities that we just don't, we're like, oh, look how good they are. I'm not as good as them, right? So I couldn't do that. They must be smarter than me, which then prevents people from even trying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's like there's a social aspect to that too. Like, I don't think people really look at each other and reward each other enough for
hard work.
Identify hard work. Well, they don't see hard work when it's staring them right in the face. They just think it's some natural voodoo that just happened.
Yeah, I think because a lot of people don't really identify, or they don't understand the importance of hard work and like how powerful it is. Like I have on my Instagram, like nothing substitutes hard work. Nothing. There's nothing in the world that can substitute a hard worker. You can be the most talented, the smartest. In fact, I'd rather have a bunch of people that were mediocre or low intelligence that were all hard workers. I would rather that, because they're going to find ways to get the job done, and they're not going to give up until the job's done. Like they just won't give up. Whereas people, like you said, if they feel they're super smart and then they fail, they're like, oh, well, I'm not smart enough for this. This is the cap of my intelligence. This is the level of my incompetence. Instead of just being like, no, I can figure a way to find it out. I completely believe in the value of hard work. So
Yeah, I just find it so fascinating, and I've been reading some things just on social media about it. Like it's been popping up. Maybe the algorithms. Maybe I said it. I don't know. Maybe my phone listened to me while I was talking about it. But stuff's been popping up. It's like you said, like a person who's really smart and competent but lazy, is not going to accomplish half as much as someone who's not as competent but works their butt off.
yeah.
Right? Because nothing, like you said, nothing substitutes for hard work. So I just found that fascinating. I think that book is really fascinating. I mean, the title drew me to it with mindset, right? So I was like, oh, let's give that a look see. And so no, it's really good. I highly recommend that book if you haven't read it. So I'm about halfway done with that. So
I think a perfect example of this is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. If you've ever, he actually has, for the audiobook, he does it like a podcast style where the author of the book is not David Goggins. It was the person that actually interviewed him. I can't remember his name, but he reads the chapter, and then at the end of the chapter, they have a discussion. When you hear the way he reads and the way him explain to it, he sounds very intelligent. But then when you hear them discuss on the podcast afterwards, you actually kind of listen to David Goggins. You're like, he's kind of a simple jack. He's just like a simple dude. He's not real. He's just a hard damn worker. Like that's it. It's that simple. He's not super smart. He's not a rocket scientist. I don't even think he has a college degree, to be honest. I don't think he ever went to college.
Wasn't he a Navy SEAL?
He was a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
So in fact, he was actually terrible at test taking. He had to take the ASVAB multiple times to get the minimum required score to go to Navy SEAL school. To go to BUDS.
Yeah.
So in order to go to BUDS, you had to have a minimum score, and he had to take it multiple times. And so what he did is he just kept studying. He just studied. He took it and failed, studied, and he just kept studying over and over and over again. But he actually goes over that in the book about his, like, he was like, dude, I was so happy when I took the test, like, and they gave me my score. Like, I made them give me my score when I got done taking the test, because it was like the last time he could take the test, because it was the last time he could go before there was some timeline. And he was like, if this doesn't happen, then it's not meant to be. And he passed it that last time. And but he was talking about, like, dude, I was studying all day. Like, he would ride for like 3 hours on a recumbent bicycle, and he'd have books open while he's riding, just studying, And it's that kind of dedication, that kind of hard work that he understood. Like, I'm not the smartest person. I don't catch on to things really well, but I'm not going to give up. And so, because I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep reading the stuff. I'm going to keep taking these practice tests. I'm going to keep doing all these things. That's going to help me get to the minimum level I need in order to do what I want to do. So, you like when you actually, like, hear him talk or hear him speak, he's a really simple dude. He's just, like, straightforward, to the point. Not very eloquent. He's just a hard damn worker. But that's fantastic. Like, because the things that he's accomplished in his life, comparatively to most people, it's unbelievable. The things that he's done in his life, and the boundaries that he's pushed in his life. And so and when you look at it like that, like where he was to where he is now, because he was like completely overweight, had no life, had barely had a job. He was um, cleaning out rat traps and pest traps in restaurants in the evenings or like after hours or in early mornings. He would go through and just clean out these traps, and that was his job. And then he would go home early in the morning, and he would stop by. He said his like routine was to stop by the gas station and get a dozen donuts, and he would eat them all on the way home. And then he'd get home with some yoo-hoo or some shit. He would get home, he would change clothes. He would then go to his mom's house, and his mom would have like a huge breakfast cooked for him, and he would eat this whole breakfast after that. And he did this every day. But he was unhappy. He was unhappy. He was overweight. He wasn't doing anything in his life, and he wanted more. And one day he watched a video. He watched a video of that show when they were showing all the special forces and Navy SEALs training on TV and like people making the cut or whatever. He saw that and he was just like, something hit him. He was like, dude, I want to be a Navy SEAL. That's it. That's going to help me be the person I want to be. And everybody told him no, man. Everybody told him no. But it was just because his inner desire, like he wasn't going to quit, you know? He was going to do whatever it took. And he did. He ended up having to he went through buds 3 times. He went through buds 3 times, bro. Hell, can you imagine going through Hell Week 3 times in a row, bro?
I'm not even going to attempt one time because I don't want that.
Going through Hell Week 3 times? Like that would be,
no.
I would rather stab my eyeballs with icicles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'd rather shove needles under my fingernails. Like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
No,
it's insane.
This reminds me of this is real world. I work over at NATO, but I have an Air Force NCO that works with me. She's fabulous, but she had to like plan some kind of gathering, right? And she was kind of having a little anxiety because she didn't know. She's like, oh, I don't know if it's the right venue. I don't know. It's just something very, I guess you could say, simple. It's not like earth-shattering or whatever, but it was a lot of stress that she was putting on herself because she was indecisive and wasn't making a decision and didn't want to pull the trigger. She was overthinking things, and I was just like, I just had this experience myself where you're paralyzed by fear and anxiety, and then you start to spiral. You know what I mean? Out of control, and then you're just sitting there doing nothing, and you're just worrying. And so I'm just like, I just had this happen to me with my little quiz fiasco, right? And I'm like, what did I do? And it's like what David Goggins did. Like I got to work. Like I didn't just sit there and woes me and eat donuts. I was like, okay. I whined for a day, and I'm like, what am I whining for? Like, get to work. Like, go start studying. Go do this. Work harder. Plan. And I think the big thing too was the plan. And that's what I told her. I'm like, the way forward. Go plan it out. Go set out a solid plan. How many days you have. What tasks you need to get done. Go plan it out, and your anxiety will decrease because you're going to start seeing that there is a path. And now you can just start walking on that path, right? And that you have to pull the trigger on certain decisions. So because you don't have time to sit here and deliberate, like you gotta is it good enough? Like, yeah, you probably want some like Cinderella story venue with like snowflakes and a violin quartet or whatever. But guess what? You don't have time for that. Like, so you're gonna have to settle for Chuck E. Cheese or something. But regardless, you're gonna be making progress, right? Towards that goal, towards that end state. And sure enough, like she came in today and she's like, Sarah, I pulled the trigger on that thing. And I'm like, did you? She's like, I feel so much better about it. Like, and it's just like, man, isn't it funny? Like we get humans just get spun up over like this unknown or unknowable stuff when in fact, like the answer is like right in front of their face with their own 2 hands and everything between their 2 ears. Like, just like roll up your sleeves and get to work.
Yeah.
Like, what do you, yeah, life is beautiful. You have the opportunity to work. There are people in a hospital bed right now wishing that they could be out worrying about something other than like where they're currently at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just like, man, it just puts things into perspective for you. That's what's been going on in my mind, though. That one little excerpt from that book just gets your mind just spinning, and then you can see the application, and then like you can start applying it like immediately. So if you're not reading books, people,
You should. You should
go
be reading
read some books.
You should be reading a little bit every day. 10 pages every day. It's all.
Go read. The more
highly
I read,
beneficial.
the more I'm convinced there's nothing new. There's the more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you read a lot of these like business books or leadership books or whatever. I'm like, there really isn't anything new. We rediscover old principles over and over and over and over again. It's just like, oh, this is the old principle from 4,000 years ago. We just now apply it to this technological age in this new environment. So it has like this little nuanced, facade, just little nuanced little change to it, but it's really the same thing, And so
what's old is new again.
What's Stephen King knows what he's talking about.
Dude, Stephen King's a fantastic writer. When you read books, make sure you're reading actually professional books that are like personal or professional development. You could still read Stephen King books. He does have some great books. The original, The Shining, fantastic book. It is a really good. It's a really good book.
Yeah, well, even I'm gonna push back on you on that, there, Gregory. I think there are some books that aren't like professional or business books that you can read that are kind of just timeless classics that can teach you similar life lessons if you know where to look. Like, for instance, a great example is The Alchemist. I think I sent you that. Did I send you that book?
You did. I have a copy of it.
You haven't read it.
I have not read it yet. You know what? I'll read it next.
It's an easy, fast read, and you're gonna see there's some fabulous business, life, leadership lessons in that book. Fabulous. So if you don't get to the end of that book and read that last part, and you don't get a little choked up or just sentimental, you don't have a beating heart. That's all I have to say. So if you haven't read The Alchemist and you are walking on this planet and breathing and are literate and can read, you are selling yourself short in life. Like, that book is phenomenal. So,
just to kind of, I guess, nail the point home. I think most times when people get stressed out about when they have a lot of decision or like a lot of options to pick from and a decision to make, I really feel that their stress and their anxiety when they start to spiral obviously comes from their indecision, but that indecision comes from their ability to make an assessment of what they can actually accomplish. So they don't know, like, what if I pick this? And what if I'm not good at it? Or what if it doesn't work out? Or what if this happens? Or what if that happens? Well, then I can pick this one. But what if I don't like it? But what if this happens? This is what happens. But what if I pick this one? And there's that indecision. But it all has to do with self-confidence. Because here's the thing is that, when you look at any successful person in any industry, there's a lot of commonalities that they have. And one of the main commonalities they have is that they are decisive, and because it comes from confidence, because they are confident in their abilities to make the job happen, even if they don't have all the information. They will figure it out along the way. They commit first, they act, and they figure out everything as they go. But they don't take a lot of time sitting there deliberating on which way to go. They get just enough information, be like, boom, let's go, and they drive forward. But that confidence to do that comes from their ability to know that, like, they've accomplished so much already in their life. They understand that with hard work, no matter what, they can find the resources necessary. And I think that's a lot of the things that the issues and problems that happen with agents to bring this full circle and why they're not having success is that, Danny, the agent we're mentioning at the beginning, she holds people accountable. So she's like, hey, when you get carrier contracts, you need to go get with the carriers, call them, find out everything about their products and everything. The carriers are the experts. Go find out from the experts. Don't ask me about what carriers you have. Don't ask me about the products, because you have the carriers and they're the experts, and that's their job, is to do that. But it's your job. It's your responsibility to understand what you have access to. And if you're not going to do the work, I'm not going to help you. Like putting the responsibility on the agent and forcing them to do some hard work helps them to be more successful, and they learn better because they don't have a crutch to rely on. Yep. So, just to bring that full circle.
It's just, where's Elton John? Cue Elton John, Circle of Life. I like it. Let's do this. You got to get some more
sound effects.
Sound buttons there.
Yeah, I know.
You got to upgrade it. You got to go upgrade that.
I could download anything I want. It's just finding the right ones that sound good, that are short and quick, and not long.
Yeah, the womp 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 womp. Yeah, that one's a good one. Bad timing with segue.
What about this one?
That's good. I like that. I like that one. That one's good. No, that's like clown show.
It's a bicycle horn. All right.
Yeah, I know, but that sounds like a clown honking his nose or something. And now we've digressed.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we're just
So, all right. Well, Mitch, I appreciate you taking the time to come in here and speak with all the agents and just have a conversation about leadership. For anybody that's watching this, if you want to write into Mitch, like has been done before, and you want to hear about a specific topic when it comes to leadership, please do so. Reach out to his Instagram. It's posted down below. Are there any other ways that if people want to reach out to you, Mitch, that they can say, "Hey, man, what's up? How are you doing?"
Well, I don't want to repeat my handle this time because last time I screwed it up and you had to correct me on it. No, I mean that's the best way. At Fifth Dimension Potential. That's the best way on Instagram. That's the thing I check the most. So I'm open to DMs. Just DM me, follow me, DM me. It's easy breezy. I'm very responsive.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, this has been the Leadership Huddle. Thank you so much for coming on board and taking the time to talk with me and the agents. If you're watching this on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications because we come to you each and every weekday with new content. I'm your host, Greg Birch with the ADV1 podcast. If you got anything out of this podcast, if you learned anything, if you enjoyed it, if you laughed, if you cried, if anything that was of value to you, do me a favor. Here's a fee. I want you to share this with somebody else that can get value out of this. If you didn't like it, all right, too bad. Don't tell me anything. Don't share it. That's fine. No value exchange there. So, but that's the value exchange. We provide value. You share the information. Somebody else can get value from it. We can continue to help everybody to increase their leadership, increase their in their life, in their business, personally, professionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, however we can. Thank you so much for watching, taking part.